We all know that environmentalists will say anything to scare us into believing we're all going to die from global warming. But let me tell you, things have just gone beyond ridiculous with the latest statement from the head of the United Nations. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon blames the ethnic and religious violence in Darfur on global warming, and he insists that more conflicts of this kind are on the way because the world is heating up. But he doesn't realize is the only thing heating up is religious violence in that region. He wrote, quote, "The Darfur conflict began as an ecological crisis arising at least in part from the climate change. 2 decades ago, the rains in southern Sudan began to fail, according to UN statistics." This is long-winded, isn't it? Average precipitation has declined some 40% since the early 1980s. Scientists at first considered this to be an unfortunate quirk of nature, but subsequent investigation found that it derives to some degree from man-made global warming. Yeah, I guess they have too many big SUVs in Darfur these days. Am I the only one who thinks this is preposterous? Chris Horner, senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprises Institute, joins me now. Chris, I'm guessing you think it's nuts too.
Well, I don't know. There's a great bumper sticker appeal to people don't kill people, global warming kills people. The problem is I think we've infantilized the third world enough. I mean, this is an irresponsible degree coming from someone who is in a position of power such that absolutely positively nothing they do to themselves is of their own making, when in fact, you know, you touched on something that's very critical. Actually, there are 2 points. First, has man been fingered with having altered African rain patterns? Not according to his very own United Nations. The global warming report you heard so much about recently used 18 models, all these different scenarios, and they all came down to it's natural variability.
Well, Chris, hold on a second. How does he get away with it then, saying that we, you know, the big, mean, rich, generally white population did this?
Well, obviously, they've proven with the global warming alarmism's success that there's a tremendous market out there for saying things like, well, if it would have rained more, religious and racial genocide wouldn't be occurring, and it didn't rain because of the wealthy countries. The idea that capitalism is at the root of all of the world's problems is instilled in most any one of the UN phylum. It has great currency in the media.
Well, Chris, he might be onto something.
Look how much attention he got by saying this.
When I live in Texas, when we don't get enough rain in Texas, I tend to really go pray hard at the church, and you know, I feel like talking to somebody who doesn't believe like I believe. This guy is off his rocker. It's kind of appropriate that his name is Ban. I'd like to do that to him. You know, but as we go forward, you know, what do we believe from the UN? That the first study they did is right, that what he's saying now is correct, or that they're all full of it?
I would stop listening to them, except when he refers to them, you might as well go back and look, and none of the 18 models attribute this to anything but natural variability. The key question here is, why does Africa continue to be uniquely vulnerable to drought? Remember, drought happens everywhere, always will sometime.
Right.
Climate changes always has, always will. Why do they refuse to join the ranks of developing countries? Why does Africa not tolerate political corruption?
And why does the UN refuse to go there and keep the peace, which is their job? I guess he's not doing a very good job at that, so it's your fault and mine.
Well, look, everything comes down to this is the wealthy country's fault, but we need to stop infantilizing these people. Africa needs to enter the ranks of developing countries, and they won't do it until they install respect for property rights and all the other things that we have that they need.
All right, Chris, thanks a lot for that. Appreciate it. Up next, the immigration